There is a device in your home right now consuming more electricity than your refrigerator, washing machine, and dishwasher combined. It runs 24 hours every single day without interruption. You never turn it off. You probably never even think about it. And depending on your model and settings, it accounts for between 8 and 20% of your total household electricity consumption every single month, according to comprehensive energy audits published by the Department of Energy and confirmed by utility company studies across multiple states. That device is your water heater, the second largest energy consumer in virtually every American home. But here is what nobody tells you clearly when you move into a house or apartment. Your water heater is almost certainly set to a temperature 15 to 20 degrees hotter than you actually need. That excess temperature costs you approximately $120 to $240 per year in completely wasted electricity or gas. It accelerates tank corrosion, shortens equipment lifespan, and increases the risk of scalding injuries, particularly for children and elderly household members. And the reason it ships from the factory set to 140 degrees instead of the recommended 120 is because manufacturers prioritize liability protection over your utility costs, and because a population running water heaters hotter than necessary cannot reduce energy consumption enough to impact utility revenue targets. Right now, walk to your water heater. It is typically in a basement, garage, utility closet, or exterior enclosure. Look at the temperature dial or digital display. If you have an older tank model, the temperature setting is usually a dial with notations like low, medium, high, or sometimes actual temperature markings. Most water heaters are factory set to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This became industry standard in the 1980s, primarily because Legionella bacteria, which causes Legionnaire's disease, cannot survive sustained temperatures above 140 degrees. Manufacturers chose this setting to minimize any theoretical liability from bacterial growth in hot water systems. But the actual risk of Legionella in residential water heaters is extraordinarily low according to epidemiological data from the CDC. Legionnaire's disease outbreaks occur almost exclusively in large commercial buildings with complex plumbing systems, cooling towers, and stagnant water conditions. Your home water heater cycles fresh water constantly. The risk is functionally zero. Meanwhile, maintaining water at 140 degrees costs you approximately $8 to $12 extra per month compared to running it at 120 degrees. That is $100 to $144 annually for protection against a threat that does not meaningfully exist in residential settings. Let us go back to when this became standard and why the recommendation exists, despite the cost. Prior to 1980, most water heaters operated at temperatures ranging from 110 to 130 degrees. Settings varied by region and personal preference. Then several things happened simultaneously. Energy efficiency became a regulatory concern. The Department of Energy began publishing recommendations for optimal water heater temperatures. Initial guidance suggested 120 degrees as the ideal balance between energy efficiency, safety, and functionality. At 120 degrees, water is hot enough for effective dishwashing and showering, significantly reduces scalding risk, and minimizes standby heat loss from the tank. Standby loss is the energy wasted keeping water hot when you are not using it. Higher temperatures mean greater temperature differential between the tank and surrounding air, which accelerates heat loss through the tank walls even with insulation. Reducing the temperature setting from 140 to 120 degrees cuts standby losses by approximately 6 to 10%. Over a year, that translates to meaningful cost reduction. But manufacturers resisted lowering factory settings despite DOE recommendations. The reason was legal liability. If any Legionella case could theoretically be traced to a residential water heater, manufacturers feared lawsuits regardless of how remote the actual risk. So they kept settings at 140 degrees and buried the efficiency recommendation in user manuals that almost nobody reads. Plumbers installing new units never mentioned it because they were not trained to prioritize customer energy costs over manufacturer specifications. Utility companies never promoted it aggressively because lower consumption reduces their revenue. So millions of households continue operating water heaters at temperatures 15 to 20 degrees hotter than necessary, paying hundreds extra annually, completely unaware that a simple adjustment could eliminate that waste. This is not speculation. This is documented in residential energy studies conducted repeatedly across decades. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory measured water heater energy consumption at various temperature settings in controlled tests. A 50-gallon electric water heater set to 140 degrees consumed approximately 4,800 kilowatt-hours annually. The same unit set to 120 degrees consumed 4,200 kilowatt-hours. A 600 kilowatt-hour difference. At 13 cents per kilowatt-hour, that is $78 saved annually by turning one dial. For gas water heaters, the savings are similar. A typical gas unit at 140 degrees consumes approximately 240 therms per year. At 120 degrees, consumption drops to 210 therms. 30 therms difference at $1.20 per therm equals $36 annual savings. These are conservative estimates. In climates with cold incoming water or poorly insulated tanks, savings can exceed $150 annually. But here is where the numbers become uncomfortable for equipment manufacturers and utility providers. If every American household reduced water heater temperature from 140 to 120 degrees, national residential energy consumption would drop by approximately 1.2%, according to extrapolations from DOE efficiency data. That seems small until you calculate the absolute numbers. Total U.S. residential electricity consumption is roughly 1.4 trillion kilowatt hours annually. 1.2% equals nearly 17 billion kilowatt hours. At average national rates, that represents over $2 billion in annual consumer savings. $2 billion that utilities do not collect. $2 billion that does not flow through the energy system. The economic incentive to promote this adjustment is entirely on the consumer side. Every other stakeholder benefits from you keeping the setting exactly where it is. Here is exactly what you do right now. Go to your water heater. Locate the temperature control. On most electric water heaters, this requires removing a panel on the front of the tank. You will see one or two thermostats depending on tank size. Each has a temperature dial or adjustment screw. On gas water heaters, the control is typically at the bottom of the tank near the gas valve. It may be a simple dial with temperature markings or generic settings. Using a flathead screwdriver or by hand, depending on the model, turn the temperature down to 120 degrees. If your unit uses generic markings, set it to the lowest setting above warm, typically labeled normal or medium. Once adjusted, replace any panels you removed. Wait 3 to 4 hours for the water temperature to stabilize at the new setting. Test the hot water at a sink or shower. It should be hot enough for comfortable showering and effective dishwashing, but not scalding. The difference is immediate and measurable. Your water heater will run fewer heating cycles per day because it reaches set point faster and loses heat more slowly to the environment. If you have a smart meter or energy monitoring system, you will see reduced baseline consumption within the first 24 hours. Your next utility bill will reflect the change. Most households report savings of $8 to $15 in the first month. Over a year, $100 to $180 depending on water heater type, insulation, and usage patterns. A family in Texas made this adjustment on their electric water heater. Previous monthly electricity bills averaged $160. After reducing water heater temperature, bills dropped to $148, $12 monthly reduction, $144 annual savings. The adjustment took 5 minutes and required no tools beyond a screwdriver. Return on investment was infinite because the change cost nothing. Beyond energy savings, lower water temperature extends equipment lifespan. Water heaters fail primarily due to tank corrosion. Higher temperatures accelerate corrosion by increasing the rate of electrochemical reactions between water and the steel tank. Sacrificial anode rods, which protect the tank by corroding preferentially, deplete faster at higher temperatures. A water heater running at 140 degrees may last 8 to 10 years. The same unit at 120 degrees can last 12 to 15 years. That is 3 to 5 additional years of service from a simple setting change. Replacement costs for water heaters range from $800 to $1,500 installed. Extending lifespan by even 3 years saves you from one premature replacement over 30 years of home ownership. That is another $800 to $1,500 saved in addition to annual energy savings. Lower temperatures also dramatically reduce scalding risk. Water at 140 degrees causes third-degree burns in less than 5 seconds of skin contact. Water at 120 degrees requires 5 minutes of exposure to cause similar injury. The time difference is critical for preventing accidents, especially involving children who cannot react quickly to pull away from hot water. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 120 degrees specifically for households with young children. Every year, thousands of emergency room visits result from tap water scalding. Most occur at temperatures between 135 and 150 degrees. Setting your water heater to 120 eliminates this risk almost entirely while maintaining adequate temperature for all household needs. Some will object that 120 degrees is insufficient for dishwashers. Modern dishwashers have internal heating elements that boost incoming water temperature to 140 to 160 degrees during the wash cycle, regardless of your water heater setting. The appliance heats water internally as needed. Your water heater setting is irrelevant to dishwasher performance. Others worry about bacteria growth at lower temperatures. The concern is misplaced. Legionella requires specific conditions to proliferate primarily stagnant water in large systems. Your residential water heater cycles water regularly through normal use. The tank is not a stagnant breeding ground. Additionally, 120 degrees still inhibits bacterial growth. It simply does not kill bacteria as aggressively as 140 degrees. For residential applications, the difference is immaterial to health and safety. Pair this adjustment with basic water heater maintenance and savings compound. Drain the tank annually to remove sediment buildup. Sediment insulates the bottom of the tank from the heating element or burner, forcing the system to work harder to heat water. Draining takes 30 minutes. Attach a garden hose to the drain valve. Open the valve and let water flow until it runs clear. Sediment removal improves heating efficiency by 5 to 8%. Insulate the tank with a water heater blanket if it sits in an unheated space. Blankets cost $20 to $40 and reduce standby heat loss by 25 to 40%. Insulate hot water pipes running through unconditioned spaces. Pipe insulation costs $1 to $3 per linear foot and prevents heat loss during water transit from the heater to fixtures. The combination of temperature reduction, sediment removal, tank insulation, and pipe insulation reduces water heating costs by 30 to 45% compared to an unoptimized system. A household spending $400 annually on water heating can reduce that to $240 through these measures, $160 saved every year. Total investment is under $100 for insulation materials. Payback occurs in under 8 months. Every year after that is pure savings requiring no additional effort. Install low-flow shower heads and faucet aerators to reduce hot water consumption directly. Low-flow fixtures cost $8 to $15 each and reduce water flow from 2.5 gallons per minute to 1.5 gallons without perceptible pressure loss. A family taking typical length showers uses 30 to 40% less hot water with low-flow heads. That reduces water heating demand proportionally. Combined with lower temperature settings, total water heating costs drop by 50% or more compared to baseline wasteful operation. The knowledge did not disappear because it stopped being effective. It was never widely distributed in the first place because no industry stakeholder benefits from educating you. Water heater manufacturers profit from shorter equipment lifespans driven by high temperature operation. Utilities profit from maximum consumption. Plumbers profit from frequent replacements and service calls. Your savings come directly from their revenue. So the information stays buried in technical documents and government recommendations that reach almost nobody. Your parents probably never adjusted their water heater temperature. Their parents certainly did not because the recommendation did not exist yet. You have lived your entire life paying $15 monthly for water 15 degrees hotter than you need, and nobody ever mentioned it was optional. If this just revealed $120 to $200 in annual savings from turning one dial, share it with someone whose water heater has been set to 140 degrees for 20 years. Every person who makes this adjustment is one less household subsidizing utility revenue through preventable waste. Every water heater set to 120 degrees is a permanent break from overpaying for a factory default that protects manufacturers legally while costing you financially. The next buried solution addresses thermostat setback strategies that cut heating costs by 30% using schedules instead of constant temperatures, and what it reveals will change how you think about comfort versus cost in ways the HVAC industry desperately needs you to never calculate.